that's your words that democracy is one of the best humankind's intentions. But at the same time, for the moment, 2017, are according to statistics, just purely statistics, around 45% of the countries in the world enjoy democracy. The rest of the world partly or are fully deprived of freedom, and women there are deprived partly or fully of freedom. So they denied freedom in the whole regions of the world almost fully. Do you still see the hope when just 45% of the countries in the world enjoy true freedom and women enjoy the opportunities for empowerment there?
Well, I am an optimist, and I do see democracy as the best answer to people's needs within a country. But it's a difficult process, and it requires an understanding of responsibilities that citizens have towards their government and governments have towards their citizens. I have always believed that having women politically and economically empowered is something that is stabilizing for society, but societies cannot be fully democratic if women are not fully empowered. So it all goes together. But I think I am an optimist. Democracies are having a bit of a hard time at this moment because there's not enough faith in institutions. And I think that women, by being a part of the process, can help to connect better with the people in a country, explain what the responsibilities are. So it's still a lot of work, but women are absolutely essential to making democracy work.
Okay, so but still to develop on the previous question, there are regions like Middle East, Eurasia, and for example North Africa, where the situation is the worst. You have the global perspective for this issue. So what could be suggested?
Well, I think I have actually spent time in North Africa and in the Middle East and talked to a variety of women's groups there. I think that they do want to be much more involved, and many of them are more involved than we ever hear about. But I think we have to keep pushing. What we, I think, have to understand that cultures are different, history is different. We can't all be at exactly the same place, but we do have to support each other. I think in some ways, American women sometimes make a mistake thinking that everybody has to be exactly like American women. I do think we need to respect culture in other countries, but I don't think anybody can say X country is not ready for democracy, because people all everywhere want to make decisions about their own lives, and so we need to be supportive of each other.
Mm-hmm. Do you personally believe in the so-called theory that the more women are in the power, the less violence and warfare and poverty are in the world is?
I do believe that that in fact that women have more of a capability of reaching out to each other and having a way of empathy and understanding each other. I don't think that not every woman I've ever met or studied has been has not used force. And so I think we have to be careful about generalizations, but I do think that women have a capability of reaching out, understanding, working with each other across ethnic lines or tribal lines, and I've seen it in a number of countries, and certainly something that when I was Secretary of State I promoted, and then Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, really worked on that whole process, and it all began in many ways at the Beijing conference 25 years ago, when Hillary Clinton said women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights, and every country undertook a plan of action. And so the question is how we keep pursuing that and make it a common effort.
Mm-hmm. Your personal story as a Secretary of State, concerning your personal experience, what kind of gender-related difficulties did you face, did you encounter, if any, during your work?
Well, I was one of an early generation of women, and despite the fact that I had a PhD, people wondered what I was doing in the room, and people thought when my name came up to be Secretary of State that a woman could not be Secretary of State, primarily because Arab countries would not deal with a woman. So then what happened was the Arab ambassadors at the UN, because I had been ambassador at the UN, said we had no problems dealing with Ambassador Albright. We wouldn't have any problems dealing with Secretary Albright. Foreign countries, I think, began to get used to dealing with me, because if they wanted to have a diplomatic relationship with the United States, I was the person that had to do it. I frankly had more problems with the men in our own government. But President Clinton wanted me there, and so that gave me the credibility. But it's not simple. But that is why there need to be more women in everybody's government, because we need to support each other. And when there are other women, then we are more helpful and can work together. I think the thing that would happen was I actually would be told not to argue emotionally. What my views were and why. And I learned to argue very pragmatically and straight. And I finally decided I did have the highest ranking job, and the president wanted me there, and so I found my voice. And I spoke very strongly, and I'm very proud of what we were able to do during the Clinton administration in terms of expanding NATO, working to stop the ethnic cleansing in the Balkans, and that had a lot to do with having the capability to express my arguments clearly.
You're actually familiar very much with Central Eastern Europe, because in by origin you came from the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, the former Czechoslovakia. So what do you see in Central Eastern Europe or in this area of the world? What would you suggest to the women here, especially women in the post-communist countries, in post-Soviet countries like Ukraine, Belarus, Russia? Because their situation, I think, is much, much more difficult than the situation of women in the Czech Republic, for example. Your recommendations, how to
It's
move
interesting,
on?
because I have now met with a lot of Ukrainian women and other women in other countries in Central and Eastern Europe. I think that the important part is to work together, to form coalitions, to decide on what the agenda is, and work together to make sure that it gets into the parliaments, that there are really ways to make clear that women are capable of any job, and not to have the discrimination of kind of saying women can't do it. I think women need to support each other, because there really, even among women, is kind of a sense of, oh, I can't do it. No man ever says I can't do it. And I think that we need to build each other's confidence. But politically, what I think is important is to create coalitions and work together. And work not only in the capital cities in Kyiv, but also out in the local areas, so that there are women at all levels kind of working their way up, and that there is that support system. But it's not simple. And I think that in various research work that I had done earlier in the 90s, I think there were women that had been liberated to work twice as hard, but not necessarily to have political positions. And so that is what has to happen. We know how, women everywhere know how to work all the time, but it's a matter of having the political influence, and that can only come by working together and supporting each other in parliaments and in local offices.
Okay. Secretary Albright, thank you so much. Thank you. That's the end of our talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.